Hey, good evening, everyone. So, welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I have very special guest today, Rituparna Ghosh. Um, today's discussion topic is how to ace interviews using storytelling. And I got messages from many of you that what is this? I mean, are we supposed to tell stories in interviews? We thought we get difficult questions, technical questions, behavioral questions. So, what is this about? So, Rituparna rightly says in her bio that she believes that anything can be done using a story. Okay, you can engage an audience, you can use those in everyday situation, you can communicate better, even form authentic connections with people. And don't you think interviews are all about that? Have you ever been in a situation in a job interview? You came out of the interview, you sort of took a relook at what happened during the interview. You thought you said all the right things, but you couldn't make that rapport with the interviewer. You don't think that you made that connection and you convinced them that you are the right person for this role. Has it ever happened with you? So we'll exactly dig into this today, that how to use stories as answers in your job interviews. All right. So, and I have no better person than Rituparna. So thank you, Rituparna, for coming live, because I'm very excited about this topic, and many professionals whom I deal with every day face this challenge. So thank you so much for accepting my invite.
Thank you, Harshad, for inviting me. I think an interview is an excellent opportunity for anyone to get out and tell a story and take the interview back in your own hands. Because sometimes when we walk into an interview, we think that, oh my God, we are in a spot. But it is actually the other way around. You can turn it around, give a spin to your interview. And by spin, I don't mean that you tell a fantastical tale, which is not true, but in fact, tell an authentic tale which will get the interviewer to ask, tell me more. So that's the trick that I do hope people will take back from today's discussion. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Great, great. So Rituparna, let me introduce you for the benefit of audience. And the audience, do check out her LinkedIn profile. She's part of LinkedIn Creators Accelerator program, and she has been producing fabulous content every single day. Okay, so do follow her on LinkedIn after this live. But just for the benefit of audience, uh, she's a former television producer turned entrepreneur. Okay, she's founder of Your Story Back, a storytelling training consulting and coaching company, and she has also been in a TEDx talk. Okay, so do check her profile in detail. uh, Rituparna, the format is I'll put some questions for us to guide our
Go
discussion
ahead.
forward,
You are the
right?
interviewer and I'm being interviewed. So I will try to do my best.
Let's do that today. Yes. And audience, I have deliberately kept very few questions for myself because I would like more questions from the audience. So start putting into comments. If you are watching us live, do like this post or the live session you are seeing so that I'll know who is watching. Do start commenting. Just say hi to Rituparna and give us some energy. We do not want to talk to our walls in our rooms. So would like to know who is in front of us. So till the audience really gets into the gear of asking questions, I have a couple of questions for you, Rituparna.
Go ahead.
Very basic for those who don't know what is storytelling, because by the name it seems that we have to tell imaginary stories or it is fiction. So we read it in kids books, or we generally
Yeah.
associate stories with TV, let's say, or cinema.
Yes.
What is storytelling in general or in professional or corporate context?
Okay, lots of questions brought in here. Now, there are two ways to talk about it. Storytelling are basically two words, story and telling. So there's a story and plus telling, and they become storytelling. I always ask people what came first. Do you think the story came first or storytelling came first?
Hmm.
What do you think, Harshad? What came first?
I think
Story or
telling,
storytelling?
right? Telling
Telling
came
came
first.
first. Let's ask the okay. We can see some comments coming in from your audience. Let's ask them. What do you think? What came first? Story came first. Storytelling came first. What do you think came first? Let's see what you know. Yesterday, in fact, I put out a poll on my LinkedIn. It was a Hindi poll where I asked people what is their definition of a story. What is a story? And is it something, again, like you said, our own preconceived ideas or notions that it is about fiction, it is about films, it is about the stories we heard in our childhood? Typically, the question is, don't tell stories to me, because it is assumed that a story is only a piece of fiction. How without story, how telling? Absolutely. What came first, story or telling? People are divided between story and telling. Let me tell you a little history about storytelling. It is that
Okay.
the story came first, because people
Okay.
went
Okay.
out long long time ago, when people were hunters and people lived in caves. The ancient man would always go out. Women were staying at home, men were going out doing all these adventurous things of killing animals and doing these conquests, trying to get the best hunt. And they would come
Yeah.
back home, and at home, in their community, in their tribe, they would say stories. I went
Wow.
there and I fought a bear and I did this and I did that. If you walk from here, you will find water. And if you walk that side, you'll meet an elephant. Don't go that side, don't go this. So people were actually going out in the world and coming back and telling stories. Sometimes,
Wow.
just to get ahead of the others, they were peppering those stories with a bit of mirch masala, even then, right? So that's where a bit of fictional element came in. So yes, stories are both the things. They are real facts. Story at the end of the day is just a anecdote, a description of an event, of what happened, where did it happen, who did it happen to, why did it happen, how did it happen, when did it happen, right? So these questions, when they're answered, you put a story. Now, of course,
Hmm.
our brains, we are wired for stories. We crave for
Okay.
stories. A lot of us, we are not happy with our present lives. So we want to escape into the stories. Why do you remember stories? Is because you were told a story at some point of time in your childhood. I
Okay.
hope it is. Okay. So I do work with a lot of children as well, but I do hope that each one of us has had some allusion or reference to a childhood story being narrated by a parent, by a
Yes.
grandparent, or some
Yes.
memory of that, right? You have
Yes.
that memory? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So because you remember it because the way it made you feel, okay, of what
Yes.
it did to you, your imagination, your emotional well being at that point of time. It made you feel comforted, happy, relaxed. So you remember how a story makes you feel. Now, if you just put the two together of what I said, it is story is nothing but a recounting or telling of what happened, where happened, how happened, with an emotional context put into it.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
you know a story will trigger emotions in the listener, then you know that story will always be remembered. And there has
Ah.
been enough research on stories and how they work, that when you are telling a story, you are narrating an event, you are taking the listener into that world which is different from his or her, and you are setting an emotional connect with that
Wow.
person. So that's what happens when you tell a story. Now, does it fit into the corporate world? Absolutely. We grew up with a lot of non-fiction, with a lot of fiction, but we also grew
Hmm.
up with non-fiction. Didn't you hear stories about how your father did that, how your
Yes.
mother
Hmm.
was the second of the siblings, and how she got this, that, whatever, right? So these are all non-fiction stories. So there's a fiction story and there's a non-fiction story. So a non-fiction story is which is based on real events, real
Okay.
happenings, real anecdotes. What you will tell in a job interview is not a fiction story, not a
Yes.
story that is inspired by your latest OTT series or the latest film that you watched in the cinemas. Instead, it is inspired or it is told from what really happened. So, yes,
Ah.
storytelling
Hmm.
has a
Hmm.
place in the corporate world, because nobody knows you. Nobody knows where
Okay.
you come from, what have you done. And the best way to put your best foot forward is to put your best story ahead.
Wow, I think Rituparna, you made it very simple. Finally, it's just events, how it happened, why it happened, but you add that emotional element to it. It makes sure that the other person remembers that. Right
Why
now,
is
just
always, I
making it a
always tell
list.
people, yes, I always tell people, pick a story and pick it because it is important for you.
Mm,
Your biggest struggle, your biggest win, your biggest or the smallest of achievement that you think is very small for the world, but it is your big achievement for you because it matters to you. And when you put that out, you actually are, what are you showing? You are showing your emotion, right? And that person will also search. When you walk into a theater, you go in and search for yourself on the screen, don't you? Is the hero story like mine? You feel very happy when you find yourself, right? So similarly, what is the interviewer looking for you? Your interviewer is trying to see a younger version of himself or herself. Number
Okay.
one, is the interviewer maybe looking for somebody who he's imagined a certain role, a certain person with a certain mindset, a certain
Mm-hmm.
attitude, and he
Yeah.
wants to see, or she wants to see, does this character fit into that role? So it's like what? A casting director in a film, right? Imagine
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
auditioning. You have to say the right things. Why I'm giving you these fictional examples is because we love the world of cinema, we love the world of fiction so much. But this is what even your hiring manager is doing. Your
Okay.
interviewer is trying to do, is trying to see, do you fit into that persona that I want? Right? So if you describe yourself, you describe your emotional, your psychological, your personality well, with the right story, then yes, you will show the person that I fit the bill.
Yeah, and one more addition to interviews is you might have competition, right? So there will be many people just like you fitting in probably. You want to get remembered, by that interviewer, right? I mean, and truly remembered, not just by face or name, but truly, as you said, really make that connection, and maybe even seeing you as younger self. uh, and corporates are just not just the or not just the work you do, right? Are you fitting in by your character as well? So do you think our unique stories or what we did during those past times bring out our perspective or character as well?
Absolutely. So I will go back to what a couple. I mean, I'll tell a story to give this into a perspective.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the only corporate job that I had it for 8 years. And
Okay.
as I grew from a trainee to a team leader, and during my tenure, I sat in from being interviewed myself and being selected because of my name. Back in the day, there was a very famous Bengali film director by who I share my name with. He's no more, but his name was my winning ticket to the job that I got, because the person
Okay.
interviewing me said that, oh wow, we're wondering if we should get another storyteller to our organization. Imagine for a trainee, it's so intimidating that you're, such a big film director, and now you're just using my name like that. Is that the only way I get a job? But I got it, thankfully, and I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
my job. But from there on, I sat in for other interviews till I was doing interviews myself. And I remember this young mother. She came in
Okay.
because she'd spent a year off the job. I worked in television, so she spent a year off the job, and she was desperate to get back into the workforce,
Okay.
right? Okay. And here she and her husband also worked in the media industry. So she told me everything about her, about the work that she had done before her motherhood, the projects she'd
Mm-hmm.
done. And typically, when I would do interviews, I would see the resume and say, tell me about this show. What did you
Yeah.
do? Yeah, tell me
Yeah.
about the script. Tell me about that subject. What was so difficult about interviewing that subject? So because I tried to see what does the producer, television producer think. So my interviews were always about, tell me about this, tell me about that, and what if you are not able to do this, then what will you do, what will be your problem solving? So I throw possible situations at that person to see how he or she will respond. Now I wouldn't look for scripted answers. I would try to see what is the first instinct that that person would say. So while I was doing, she was actually acing everything, right? And there was this hunger and this fire and a desperation for her to prove that I want this job and I'm the best person for it. But I
Mm-hmm.
backed out. Okay.
Okay.
I backed out. I backed out because of the reason that as a young mother, there would be a time when she would want to be with her child. And as much
Yes.
as I would want to support her as a female leader of her team,
Yes.
I will not be able to defend it.
Okay.
You see? So I have to understand what is my candidate's story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know if I take her, she's absolutely brilliant. But there will be a situation where she will expect, because I'm a female leader, she's going to expect that from me, and I will not be able to step up for her,
Yes.
right? So I had to tell her very politely, with a lot of regret that I'm with I will not say her name. You are so good, but I can't take you, right?
Okay.
I have to regret, and I tell her, I have to understand that person. What is that person wanting? How badly she wants it? She's very good, right?
Yes.
Because I will not be able to keep my side of the bargain. And she asked me, indirectly that, Rituparna, are you not hiring me because I'm a young mother? And I said, yes and a no. Yeah, I want to
Mm-hmm.
hire you because of you are so good, but I will not be able to keep my side of the bargain if I hire you.
Okay.
And the
Mm-hmm.
visibility is in me, not in you at this point of time, right? But she left her mark. Eventually, she got another job, which I helped her make a connection with a friend in another place, and she got a job. So you see, she
Okay.
left her mark because she told her story so convincingly to me. And
Mm.
that's an example of how you tell your story honestly and let the interviewer respond with as much honesty. If I was, then I would have said, oh, I'm sorry, but I still don't like you. And I could have lied,
Yeah.
right? But I chose to be honest with her because she was being honest and vulnerable at that point of time.
Yeah, and I think in this case, she could make that emotional connection with
She
your
could.
younger
She could.
self also, probably,
Yeah, she's
like
my age. She was my age, and I think 3 years later, I became a young mom, and nobody stood up for me either. So I think that was part of the bargain. Still, I did not change anything while I was doing, so I became a victim of the system myself. But that's another story. But that's what I want to say: that you have to tell who you are, what you want, what you're expecting from your job. That's the other
yeah.
thing that I want to get at. That when you are facing an interview, you are at a certain position in your life. Never,
Mm-hmm.
never, never uh, not tell your real story, right?
Okay.
You want, for example, I do know of people who want to move cities because
Mm.
they will get closer to their parents, or they'll get closer to, because the spouse has moved, right?
Sure.
The spouse has moved, and therefore they want to move into another city. It may be a city where you are expected, I mean, the pay grade may be a little lesser or maybe a little bit more, right? And how sometimes people don't negotiate, they don't tell their part of that story. Tell them who you are, why are you making this shift, why are you changing a
Mm-hmm.
job? You were so good in a bigger city, but you're moving to a smaller city. Why are you moving into a smaller city? Why do you need this job? You would get more money there. So be honest about it, right? Your life and its choices, everybody knows that we are all working, earning, having a career for ourselves, for the organization, but we all want a good quality life. So tell
Yeah.
that, but don't try to impress that, oh, my family is not important, my life is not important, my hobbies are not important, I'm sold to the organization, and that's what I will do. A lot of times, your interviewer will ask you, why do you want to leave your present job?
Yes.
That's a very important question, which I think has to be answered with a lot of sensitivity and a bit of alertness. I always recommend people that tell the good story. There could be a bad
Okay.
story, but don't tell the bad story first. Okay, it
Mm-hmm.
could be that, oh, I didn't get a promotion, or I want more money, or I want this. If that is the reason, do not tell like that. Okay, the way you exit and the way you talk about your former company forms the narrative about how you will potentially describe this present
Exactly.
company,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
always handle it well. So talk about the wins, talk about what you could do, what you learned, what you discovered, how did you change. Okay, every story is about transformation. So think of yourself as a character who entered that organization at a certain juncture in your life cycle, in your
Okay.
career cycle, and it got
Okay.
transformed. The now the transformation can be the downswing also, right? It could be that, okay, I was in a position of leadership, um, and I felt that as a position, as a leader, I was unable to make the right decisions or make the right
Mm.
moves to move. But I learned, and I realized that I don't want to be in a position where I have to make these choices about people. I want to be
Okay.
in a place where I see the organization working towards its employees, that they want, they're investing in learning, they're investing
Mm-hmm.
in upskilling, they're investing in humans than their products more. So whatever we, I'm
Okay.
just making a fictional story. So you may feel that you're leaving a job because you're very frustrated. So you say that this is what I was unable to do, or I could do, and now I feel I'm ready for the next change. So, and I
Yes.
feel
Yes.
this organization where I'm going into will be able to do that. Or I'm ready for this next level where I am able to do A, B, C, D. These are the opportunities that I want to try out. Or I learned this
Yes.
from my mentor in that organization, and I'm waiting to try it on in another organization. Simple. So show your transformation, things
Mm.
that you could do, how you want to turn. That will help you get your job better.
Just let's go deeper into stories for interviews, but let's
Yeah.
ask the audience. Okay, so
Mm.
audience has been quiet for a while now. So,
I hope they're
audience,
listening.
please let us know which most difficult question you have faced in interviews, right? Which really needs a story, right? And few questions Rituparna has already answered. For example, why did you leave your last job? It's already been answered. But any other question you have in mind, please put into comments. Till that time, Rituparna, I have something, okay? Because why do you need stories in interviews? So um, say let's say I'm a career changer, and I'm sure many of uh, people in the audience have shifted their career, maybe industry, maybe role, and the obvious question is why are you
Mm.
changing, especially mid level, right? After few years, 10 years, 12 years, why are you changing? And as you said, the reason might be something, money or maybe passion or whatever, but how you tell it, right? Or there should be a
Yeah.
common thing.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you how I tell it, okay? And it is written on my LinkedIn about section also. Because if people see my LinkedIn profile, it's all over the place. In the sense, I have done three things already totally for 7 years. So how. So I say that I have been trained as an engineer to solve problems. Okay, so engineering, why? I mean, I am an engineer. Then I got experience to go deeper into problem solving as a career as a scientist for 7 years. Then, out of my passion for education, came in implementing the solutions for masses as education entrepreneur. So there is a common
Very
thing
good.
that,
Yes.
like engineer to solve problems, then going deep and now implementing. So there is a
Yes.
thing. And earlier, people used to ask why education suddenly from something totally different field. So I would say that, and why entrepreneurship. So I would say my mother's family, my maternal family, so my mother, sisters, grandfather have always been teachers, professors, principals. And my father never worked for anyone else. So always been an entrepreneur. So you can say, it's in my blood
It
and
runs in
DNA.
your blood.
So I'm trying to combine education and entrepreneurship. I've seen that because, as an entrepreneur, you pitch almost every day, right? And many times a day, right? Because you meet so many new people. I've seen when you tell it like this, rather, it seems like a conscious decision that you have made
Yeah.
these changes rather
Absolutely.
than oh, you couldn't survive there, so that's why you had to leave, or something happened, like you are not telling me. So
Absolutely.
stories make it, I think stories put a thread to it, right? Rather than stating fact number one, fact number two, fact number three, you're putting a common thread to it. Because
Yes.
as a person, you are the same person going through those events, and you will look at it pretty much through same eyes, as a person. So what are your perspectives, as you said,
Absolutely.
why did you leave
I,
that last
I
job,
I
why did you
always tell
want?
people. Yeah. I always. You asking me why did I move,
No,
or
I
you
mean,
asking
no, I was
the
just
transformation
completing my
story?
thing that
Yes. Yes.
why did you leave that last job, why do you want this new job? So you have to tell your perspective towards it.
Exactly. Exactly. So, like I said, you have to summarize where you are in your life story. This is an
Mm-hmm.
exercise which I do for everyone in some of my workshops, and particularly for entrepreneurs. But this is
Mm-hmm.
absolute valid for even people who are in jobs. So I want everyone here, whoever's here listening to us, take out a paper and a pen, and I want you to create a zigzag line around the paper. Okay, so imagine it's a paper, so you create a zigzag line, and it doesn't mean if
Okay.
you want to do a wavy line, do a wavy line. However, right, but the lines should not crisscross. Okay, so it should be like a path. Imagine you are drawing the roads on a hill.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Now, imagine this is your path, your career path. Doesn't
Okay.
matter whether it's going up or down. Okay, you should be able to put milestones on them,
Mm.
key learnings, key people, key experiences. It could be your interactions with your client, with your teammate, with a mentor, with somebody outside your
Yeah.
industry who looks at your industry and has given a comment.
Yeah.
Pick all of these milestones in your life which you remember consciously. Okay, now when
Yeah.
I say consciously, it means that you know that these things happen and they've stood out. We all remember these things. It could be even a fight, a disagreement in office, that one time when your boss patted you on the shoulder, that one time
Mm-hmm.
somebody held the door for you and said, I'll follow you, right? So think of those things which naturally stand out, and they will. Even if there are two, write down those two. Now think between those two, what happened from that point zero, that first day when you stepped out on your first job, to that point, okay, that you remember. There would be
Yeah.
incidents. So your stories are hidden where? Your stories are hidden in interactions, in people, in your challenges, in your opportunities, in your emotions. Think of when you felt super confident, when were
Mm.
you not sure, when you were afraid. Think of the time when you worked last minute to do something. Think of the
Yeah.
time when you did something for the first time, right? Your stories are hidden here. These are the stories which will
Okay.
help you sum up your career decisions. If you're somebody who spent
Rituparna,
like,
actually, what you are listing now are the interview questions, honestly.
exactly,
Because
that's what I'm trying to
what I
say.
tell my students in my community is you list these things, okay?
Yes.
Don't wait, don't prepare for questions, prepare for answers. In the
Yes,
sense
prepare for
that
answers.
at
If
the,
you know your
yeah,
story well, you will know how to answer anything that's comes your way.
exactly. Because you do not know which questions will come and how twisted they will be, but you know your story. And at the last moment, because interviews are tense situations, you
Hmm.
forget actually. You
Yeah.
do not, remember. So it's
No,
better to
I mean, you
prepare for
can't.
answers.
Like for example, you're on a holiday, right?
Hmm.
You're going on a holiday, and you're going up to the mountains. You're going to the beach. Okay, let's say you're going to the beach. So you obviously are dressed for a beach location, or you're carrying luggage for a beach location. Suddenly, it begins to snow. Would you go and open your suitcase and look for that jacket that you had got? You know you have not packed your jacket,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So don't go for a beach holiday without a jacket, is what I'm trying to tell you. Or don't go looking for a jacket when it is snowing in your beach holiday, right? So you will
Yeah.
prepare for it, pack for it, because what if it snows? So that's what I'm trying to get you to do. Identify your stories, pack them well, pick out the right story at the right time, and just
At
tell
the
it
last moment.
appropriate. No, not last moment.
So,
Prepare. You like, I
no,
know
I
what you're
mean,
saying.
when, at the
Yes.
interviews, just pick out
Yes.
the line.
Yes.
So
If you're
this is the
fumbling for
golden
your
tip.
word, if you're thinking, can I think about it for a moment? Then it's like you don't even know your own journey, right? Don't fall into
Yeah.
that trap. We have some interesting
So
questions, I
this is
think.
the golden tip today, Rituparna, that stories means, as you said, the most difficult, the most emotional, highs and lows, experiences, people. These are the milestones where a story can come out because you have experienced it. It story actually happened, whether you tell it or not. It has actually happened in your world, in your life.
Yes.
It is just maybe listing it down that way
Yes.
for preparation for interviews, right? What was the most difficult situation, what was the most, and that way you list down, and that is your preparation for interviews. So basically we are telling our audience that you have to prepare for interviews this way.
Prepare your
Now
stories. Pack
because
your bag with great stories. Otherwise, you will be looking.
exactly.
Do I have one? Then I'm
Yeah.
tempted to create one, right? Because it's going to make me look good, and that's where you fall into the trap of telling a story which is not true, and you making it up.
And without stories, what happens, Rituparna? We answer questions in a theoretical way or a generic way
Yeah.
or a book kind of way. What is the correct answer to it? Rather than what is my answer to it? In the sense,
Yeah.
because most of the questions in interviews, at least for mid-career level, apart from pure technical questions, they will be situational questions or even
Absolutely.
behavioral questions. And Rituparna, already we have got many from the audience, so we'll bring one by one. Okay. But the point I was making is don't give generic answers or don't give answers which are like I mean, truth in the sense this is how it should be. Don't say that. This is how it
Yes,
happened with me. Even if you have
yes,
failed there, this was my failure. This is the way, because
absolutely,
that is
absolutely.
also one of the question actually. What
Right.
is your
And
biggest
also,
failure?
it's about, think about it. If you are satisfied with your job, if everything is going well, then perhaps you may not be changing your job. That's the regular mindset. A lot of times I know I have friends who've changed the job just because they got very comfortable with it. That I got so comfortable, I'm like walking to work and I'm sleeping in my work and I'm going back. It does not matter to me at all. So then they look for a change because now they want a new challenge, right? So always think of what is your reason for switching, and are
Hmm.
you likely to put a blame on someone? It's that person, it's that organization. They did not let me do this. That's why I want to change. I want the next. So, the way you articulate opportunity, your the life that you will get to do, or things that you will get to do henceforth. So you are actually carrying your story forward, right? So if you're
See,
able to,
Rituparna, you have answered this so well. Which story you will bring up? Let's
yeah.
say you are bringing the wrong story, which is the blaming
Mm,
story. It might be true, okay? Part of that might be a bad boss, but don't bring that story in the interview, as you're saying.
exactly,
Which story
exactly.
you are going to bring
In
up,
fact,
right?
okay, so I
In the
know this for a fact that if you are being hired for a leadership position, you will be asked leadership stories, okay?
yeah,
Or you will be asked, or there will be questions which will be projected at you, which will try to see what kind of a leader are you. So, one of the questions which I think everyone, if you are likely to get hired as a leader, you should always have what is your follower story. You see, we all want to become leaders,
leader,
right?
okay,
Okay, we all want to become leaders and we all think leadership skills should be honed in people, right? But we forget what it is to follow. What were
okay.
you like when you were a follower? You
Hmm.
also were a follower once upon a time. You also had a leader or were looking for a certain kind of a leader. And when I say leader, you were already in a team which had a great leader, or you were in a team with a mediocre leader. You were in a team which did not have a leader which inspired you, but you found that leader somewhere else
Hmm.
outside your workplace. Okay, so think of the kind of leader that you had, or the perfect leader, or the aspirational leader that you discovered as a follower. Now that's
Perfect,
that leader
perfect.
story that you should lead with, right?
Okay.
Don't say that I'm already that leader, but tell him that I remember what it was when I started my job, or in my third year as an employee, and I was working there. This incident made me realize
Mhm.
the truth about a great leader. So since then I have been trying to do this in my job, and I've been able to do it, or I have
Yeah.
not been able to do it, or that's that next stage which I feel this job is going to give me, right? So talk about the kind of leader that you will be, or you already are, or you're still
Hmm.
polishing. Leadership is not something that I think any leader will say, I'm the perfect leader, and there's
Perfect
nothing
leader.
to
Yeah.
learn about leadership, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
always tell the leader story from the follower point of view. Don't tell it from the
No,
like, I have done this, I have done that, and my team has performed like this, my team has performed like this. That's the wrong story to tell.
no, you have just given one more question. But Rituparna, now more questions have already come from the audience. Should
Let's
we
take them.
take those interview
Let's,
questions? Okay, because we asked
yes,
them. So I'll
yes,
go in that order, the way in which they have asked. See, salary expectations, because expectations are always high. So about this question, what are your salary expectation is the question.
yes.
So any and
Okay,
Rituparna, just I'm just sorry. A lot of questions are coming. Okay,
I know.
can
We'll
you
take
give
it.
us formula because everyone's story will be different,
Everyone's
right?
story will
In
be
this
different.
way,
So I always
so
say, where
let
are you
them
in your
make their own
juncture?
stories.
Correct. You
Yeah.
make your own story, but my tip for this would be to tell people
Yes.
where are you in your career story right now. Okay? That at which juncture are you? Are you somebody who's trying to finish off your student loan, somebody who's trying to invest in a
Mm,
house, somebody who's trying to pay insurance, you're looking for insurance for your family, for your parents, you're beginning a new family, you're relocating, and therefore your expectations, your wife is on a leave, so you are or your husband is on a leave, and you are trying to be the one who's leading the family. So you always be honest about where you are in your story, and that is why I'm not using it as a justification, but it shows that yes, this is what I expect from my salary, because it should be able to maintain what I want and my life's expectation is. So answer, tell it with where you are in your story, like that.
I would add here, Rituparna, is a story about my value in the market. Okay, why am I asking this higher salary? Okay, because as
Uh,
Somil is saying, the question is about higher package, right? I mean, because we always want to
Absolutely.
get the best one.
Absolutely.
So
So,
you said it right that why do I want it? But in any way, I can show from my previous experience that my uniqueness or why am I better or a best candidate for this job, right? So I deserve this, like that
right.
maybe.
So it can be a very big ego boost to ourselves when we answer that question like that, which is that, okay, my market value for me is this. So then the obvious question would be, then why aren't you following the market value? Why aren't you going somewhere else which they pay you? Why are you here? Why are you
Hmm.
negotiating that with me? Though salary is always about negotiation, but it is always about understanding that what is that rate of growth that you are have been getting. Number
Yes.
one, why are you not getting that growth in this present? So obviously if you're at a certain percentage hike that you've been getting every year, your naturally your organization should be able to give that to you or afford you. So always have the reason why not, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that is what is going to convince them. Similarly, don't say I have an offer from that company. Simply that
Hmm.
person will say, please go to that company, don't
Yeah.
come to
Yeah.
us, right? That's not the right thing to say. The best thing for you to say is that this is what at do your homework. So this is what the industry rate is going at. I am at this at my level with an X number of years of experience with such qualitative
Hmm.
work standards. This is what the natural expectation is.
This is what
And
I meant by, telling your
exactly.
value
So
and
compare it
using some
again. You're telling
parameters.
a story. Yes. So
Hmm.
tell your story in comparison with what is happening, what the real story in the market is.
Yeah.
So follow the trend, find out and know. Like the other day, I was asking somebody, so how much does a teacher with 30 years of experience make in a good private school? We need to
Yeah.
know that for
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
person to stand out and ask a certain fee as a consultant, right? So
Yeah.
similarly,
Yeah.
anyone who's trying to do that, you should know the
Hmm.
standards, the gold standards. So many years of
Yeah.
experience, these many degrees, this is the kind of
Yeah.
results. So what is the market rate? If you know that, then give your justification with that understanding.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Somil, so I hope you got it. Same way, Rituparna, let's go. Just give the formula for it. Okay. So Samir is asking, have you come across any tough situation in between your manager and reportees? Because it's at a mid-career level. How do you
Yes,
manage your people? Is the intent of this question, right?
absolutely. This is a fantastic question. Remember, all stories are about conflicts. Okay,
Okay.
all stories are
Okay.
about conflicts, and therefore you need to be able to articulate a good conflict story. Okay, if you are in the middle of that conflict, you could be the manager, you could be the reportee. Okay, talk about what did it teach you. Okay, how
Mm-hmm.
justified do you feel now? You could tell the story from a person's point of view who was a reportee, and then you felt wronged by your manager. Okay, or you're
Yeah.
the manager, and you felt disappointed, or you felt that you were let down by your team. So always tell what is that conflict. Take it away from yourself. I always tell people, make it like an out of body experience. Look at it from the
Okay.
third point of view. Once upon a
So
time,
an
there was this
objective,
an
an
objective,
objective. Okay.
third person point of view. Okay, like it's happening to other people, and then
Hmm.
the more you take your emotions out, you're able
Hmm.
to objectively look at what happened. Okay, and there you're able to comment that I was wrong, or
Okay.
I felt I was right at that point of time, but today I feel I'm wrong. It's all right to say that you felt right, but today you feel wrong, or you still feel that you were wrong then and you still feel you're wrong now, and you should be able to defend that for yourself. So talk about a conflict. Conflicts bring out the best in human beings, and people like conflict. That's why you're asked this
Hmm.
question, because they're trying to see how what is your natural instinct. Do you have learned from your wisdom, from an experience? Are you able to see it in perspective and change your approach towards your work?
And you are asking us to be objective so that you can take both the sides now, isn't it?
Yes,
Now you are out of
absolutely.
that conflict. At least during the interview, you are not in that
You're not
conflict.
fighting that
So,
fight, yeah,
yes.
still, right?
So take both the sides that maybe that
Yes.
employee was right about this part, not right about this part. I had to take that thing because I was the manager or the project was delayed. You had to do that. but maybe on some other day I could have done this as well, or I could have handled this in a
I share one
different
of
way.
those stories in my newsletter, the first edition of my newsletter. I share a leadership story where I failed, and I failed badly. But I didn't think I failed as a leader back then when it happened to me. My leader did
Mm,
not make me realize I failed as a leader. In fact, it was covered up. My mistake was covered up. Today, when I mean, the story came to me much later when I was talking about leadership or leadership styles in people, and what kind of a leader do you want to be, what kind of, think of it, forget leader, just call it your manager, right? A manager is a leader at one point. What kind of a manager will you be? How will people describe you? So
yeah.
invest in that thought and think of it like this: I'm describing me when I was 5 years back, right? Or 5 days
Mm,
back. This is the person I was. You should be able to do it as objectively,
mm.
identifying your flaws. So that's what a good story will do.
And the interviewer on the other side is anyway objective. So
Yes.
obviously he will look at both the sides, or he would want to know both the sides, And as you
And
said,
he will
even
know
the
if you
little
are trying to
failures
be
or
favorable to
success.
yourself. Your interviewer, if he or she is smart, which I also teach when I interview, when I teach people storytelling and interviewing, is that you also need to know storytelling to be able to spot the flaws in people's stories. So if you're trying to be very kind to yourself when you should not have been so kind to yourself, then the interviewer
Let's
should be
have
able to.
that topic as well sometime.
Another
That
day.
is how to be on the other side, right? How to use
Yes.
storytelling on the other side. Amazing. Thanks, Samir, for this great question.
Yeah.
Manish is asking, it is obvious that people change job for better financial or promotion, but it is not considered to share it upfront, right? Why are you changing your job? You should say it differently. So how should we convey it honestly with
Lots of things you
articulation?
can say. Think, okay, so this is a story which I always tell. Figure out what you have been able to do, okay, and what are you aching to do next. If you think that
Okay.
this new job is going to let you do that, right? For example, we learned sign language, yes, 2 days
Mm-hmm.
back, right? So I am now, this is something which I always wanting to do. So I'm going to look for an opportunity where I can learn sign language and apply it. So it's a new skill which I'm going to get, right? So if you know what you want to do, articulate
Mm.
that in your story, that this job is going to let me do something which I always wanted to do, right? So that's story number one that you can tell. Story number two, and this requires good research, okay, deep
Okay.
research it requires, and it requires research more than what you do a night before your interview, which is,
Mm-hmm.
night before your interview, you know what you want to talk about, but now you're googling about this company.
Yeah, exactly.
This, who's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
company I'm working for? I mean, going an interview, I should know what are their products, what are their services, what is their
Are
core
they are
business,
they going
where
to
do they
give you
operate.
what you're looking for, right? Actually,
You have to
I mean,
no. What I'm saying is this: in this story, you talk about the past history of this organization. What have they been able
yes,
to do? Are they an industry leader? Why? Which story has it been covered in the media? Have you
yes,
followed an iconic leader or manager or a quote? What have they been? What the controversies that this company has gone into, and
yes,
therefore, what will they be able to do in the future? What is their projection? Read everything that there is, so you know the
yeah,
story about the organization. You formed a narrative. Now tell them what will your role be in this new job. How will you help this
yeah.
organization? What role will you
Mm.
play in transforming this organization or taking it towards its next goal? That's another story that you should prepare while you are pitching yourself for a job. No money, no promotion, okay? Nothing comes in. Two stories. Just prepare these two well. These will work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amazing. Thank you, Rituparna. People are loving this already. A lot of
Thank you so much.
things I was not bringing up, but many people are commenting actually, even
Yes,
earlier
I
as
can
well.
see that.
Okay, you can also say, right? You can also see
Yes,
comments.
yes, I
That's
can see
great.
the comments. Yes.
That's great. One more, Shreya is asking, how did you get a consensus from all team members while devising the SOP? Okay. So, or maybe any decision, right? How did you get everyone to be on the same page?
So I think decision stories or strategy stories are very important for any person to have, and that's a good story to. I mean, that's a good example of implementing storytelling at the workplace. And once you
Mm-hmm.
explain why a decision has to be made, or why a strategy has to be followed, or why do they think this strategy is better than that strategy. You are explaining, if you explain it with a story, then your participants are likely to interact more with you on that. And if you
Okay.
do that,
Mm.
you would have got a better consensus on any decision that you would have had to make. This is about process, right? If you're doing it right with a story, I always say, if you and I gave this example to people that I at one point of time when my son was 5 years old, he did something and I said, no, you will not do this from next time. This is what you need to do, right? And he said, but why are you saying this? You can't say that to me. And I realized, oh no, I can't say that to him. You have to do it. I have to explain to him why are we doing it. The moment I explain why, he wants to do it, right? Because he understands the reason behind it. That's your power as a super leader or as a leader. Correct? So you explain it with a story. So I'm going back, but yes, you have to explain it with a story to your teammate why the decision is important or what are the choices. We have A, B, C.
Mm.
What do you think we should do here? Right?
Yeah.
Democratize
Yeah.
it. Explain to them, give the choice to people, let them come back. Decisions are made in boardrooms, in glass chambers. Mostly people don't get any transparency against that. So yes, this is a process story, not an interview story. You cannot change it if
So
there is no process.
as Simon Sinek says, right? Most people say what and how. So in
Yeah.
as you said,
Why?
process is like what are we going to do and how are you going to do? But nobody says why. So why are you
Absolutely.
changing this? Why are we making this SOP? Why are we changing the process? And why
Exactly. What is it?
do we need to
Why
work
should
in
we
this
all
way?
do it? Right.
Hmm.
Contextualize. Everybody wants context to decisions, to movement. Why are we changing machinery? Why are we changing the team force? Or why are we changing the core competencies of what this job requires? Right. So if you explain it to people, why are we not able to do what we are able to do? What will happen if we change this? With a story,
Hmm.
you get a better consensus from your team. That's it.
Yeah, great, great. So Mahesh is saying great inputs, realizing now how and where all my interviews might have gone down. So Mahesh, no
Great.
issues. Now
No,
the
it's
next
never
interview.
late.
Even the your experiences with your previous interviews could be the stories in some way, maybe no, don't
Exactly.
tell it exactly, that I was interviewed and this happened, but all basically I think we are all saying that the every moment we live, or especially at the junctures, we evolve stories. And now, Rituparna, as I'm talking to you, in all your content, you have been saying that you are getting so many stories. I think last post only you said that you have to stop yourself.
I have
Now
to
I'm
stop yourself
realizing
and tell
where do you
stories.
get your stories. Okay, amazing.
You're
Now
getting it
all
right.
the
What's
dots are
happening to
getting
me?
connected.
Yeah, all of this that we are talking is now going to go into my course because my course is still in development. I'm putting a course
Yeah.
together on the art of interviewing and giving an interview. So, because like I
Okay.
said, giving and taking both are very important skills
Yeah.
that each one of us should master. Whether it's a job interview, whether it's a interview when you're on call as a guest on a LinkedIn show or anywhere else in the media, somebody even talks to you about what do you do, all of it. Anybody asks you a question, you should have your stories ready. How do you prepare those stories for an interview of any kind is what my course is all
We'll
about. Now that this is a gold
wait
mine.
for we'll
Real
wait for this interview. Yeah. Sorry, we'll wait for your course now.
I think
Just
that Abdul has a question.
Yeah, yeah, but still,
Go
I'm
ahead.
going one by one. So Atif had already asked a behavioral based, a very big question. Okay, difficult to answer in my opinion. You recommended something which, according to you, is very important for the organization to do and implement, but it doesn't get the nod of the management. So his proposal got
Yeah,
rejected,
yeah, I
basically.
got that.
How do you deal with such situations? What is the next step you take when you face such a situation? Atif
Okay,
from Goa.
great question, Atif. So I think as let's call it, you are an ideator, problem solver, innovator. Your mindset is what your interviewer is looking for. They're trying to see that the first time you give an idea, you suggest a solution. If it is, think of any question from your interviewer's point of view. What is he or she looking for? Right? They're
Okay.
trying to test your attitude towards rejection.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Remember?
Okay. Uh-huh. How
Think
do
of it.
you
This is
how do you face or
how
accept
do
the
you
rejection?
feel rejection? So simplify this entire question to saying, oh, it's
Mhm.
a rejection story. Okay. Now, this is a fantastic way to spin it. Okay. I'm going to give you a trick. Think of any other rejection in your life. Okay.
How
Not from your
about
workplace. Okay.
How about
Any other
getting
rejection?
rejected by a girl? I mean,
Absolutely, getting rejected by a girl.
came to my mind.
Okay. Absolutely. The first rejection, and I mean, I think most men think like that, is to get rejected by a girl. Sorry, didn't mean it like
It
that, but
happens so common,
true.
you know, it's
Yes,
so
it
normal.
happens to everybody. So you think of, trigger yourself to think of rejection. Okay, this is
Yeah.
my rejection. How have I developed my attitude towards rejection? So I'm sure some of you may have auditioned for something. You may have had team trials for a sport in
Yeah.
school. You may have auditioned for a play. You may have
Mm.
auditioned for something or the other, applied for something like all of us applied for the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. If I had
Yeah.
not been selected, I would have had a rejection story, right?
Really.
Of how I respond to rejection. So think of any other rejection, or think of any other
Yeah.
two rejections from your past life, and see
Okay.
what is your own attitude towards rejection. Are you somebody saying,
Mm.
I'm always rejected, I am not picked for
Mm.
anything,
Mm.
I have the
Mm.
talent? They don't understand talent. You're likely to
So, like
carry
a
that
victim,
attitude with you.
are you always be a
Are you a
victim
victim?
or?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. What has that rejection made you look at yourself and the world
Mm.
like? Right? Put it in context with your workplace rejection story. Okay. So there are two stories from your life. Like I said, third person narrative. Take pull yourself out from your own life. Look at those two rejections at two different points in your life and say, rejection one, rejection two. Was I the same person, or did I change
Mm.
something? If I
Yeah.
did, then
Mm. Mm.
likelihood I would have evolved in my rejection handling. All salesperson learn rejection handling, right? All
Mm.
entrepreneurs
Mm.
learn how to face rejection. Harshad, I'm sure you have also faced
Yeah.
rejection so many times, every time in the
Yeah.
given day, right? So
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you handle rejection, and what does it tell you? Do you stop innovating? You stop trying? That one girl who said, no, I can't, I don't want to be with you. Do you stop believing in love? Do you stop believing in the
Yeah.
fact that you will
Exactly.
never have a
Mm. Mm. Mm.
girlfriend, or a
So,
soulmate, right?
or
So
probably you did for some time, but how did you come out of it? You know, like because in
exactly,
this situation,
exactly,
let's say
right?
you might have
Right, it
worked
is
on this
slowing you down.
proposal
So
for a
think of
while.
it. Yes, yes. So
Mm.
tell your rejection story with perspective. That when I was in class 3, I went and I tried very hard to be in the football team, but I was put in one day to stand in for the goalkeeper, and I got 6 goals. A true story, by the way, mine.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then I was told you can't play football. I went for the
Mm.
basketball team, and then we played some basketball. We shot some
Mm.
balls into the hoop, and then the next day we were asked to bring our parents' heights on a piece of paper. I took my parents' height, and the next day I know, sorry, rejected from the, from the basketball team. This is my rejection story. I'm
Mm.
I am I am being judged on a sport which I've never played. I'm
Mm.
being rejected because I
Mm.
couldn't keep a goal, save a goal, and I'm being rejected because my parents are short. So you see,
That is even worse, I guess.
exactly. So do I stop trying?
So
Right?
none of
No.
your fault, but you still got rejected. So, you know,
Exactly. So
how
in
did
this
you
case, I
handle
would
that?
like to go and ask that question. Why was
Mm.
my suggestion did not work? So that's what I've learned about rejections. Rejections are fine. It is just as how innovative we are. How do we bounce back? Do we stop trying? Do we stop being inventive? So I went back and asked the management, and I understood that I need to understand the story from the management's point of view. They want
Mm.
ideas because they can't think on behalf of 1,500 or 15,000 people in the
And
organization.
probably then I understood what management were looking for actually in my proposal, which
Exactly.
I didn't
Exactly.
convey or
I
couldn't
didn't have that
present
knowledge. I didn't have that
properly.
perspective. I didn't have all
Mm.
the information. And I went in with half baked information. So I realized that it's okay. I need to prepare myself when I make my next plan.
And again, objective, both sides, right? I think this is
Both
another golden tip, right? Whenever it's a conflict situation, you have to put
any
both the sides as
story,
an objective.
the best thing, Harshad, about storytelling is that you get to tell the story from every character's point of view.
Mm.
No
Okay.
character
Okay.
is your favorite. Okay, but that's why I love telling stories, because no
Okay.
character in one story is my favorite. Everyone is
Mm.
equally favorite. It's for the listener to understand who do they align with. So even if it's your own story, don't make yourself the hero. So
Okay.
make yourself
Understood.
as a character in a story that I'm telling. It happened to me, yeah. Don't say it with like, oh,
Understood.
it happened to me, blah, blah, blah. If you go with that attitude, then reject it. You can tell a story like that, but
Yeah. Yeah. One more question, hopefully, is the last question.
hmm.
So, Abdul would like to thanks both of you for a great session. It is okay. Now he's saying, I have one question: how to articulate the answer in interview that the interviewers buy my point, as I have a long Okay, two
Gap in
years of
2 years
employment gap in
employment gap.
pandemic.
Okay.
Okay, so this is very common, Rituparna, right?
Yeah.
If you have a career gap because of a reason and a long one, so how do you
Yes. So
deal
I
with
will give
this?
you two examples, and both of
Hmm.
them are ads, television ads, and they actually do it. Both of them are television ads which could be inspired by real world stories. Okay.
Okay.
One of them is the ad, I think it's for HDFC Securities or something, where this young girl, she's in class 12 and she's graduating. And then she goes on to the stage to receive an award or to give a speech that, people are talking to us that हमने 2 साल घर में बैठ के पढ़ाई कर ली. Like, what have we seen? And we
Hmm.
graduating from school from this. But in these 2 years, what have I learned? So she talks about how she saw her father fight death, how she saw her mother lose a job, or how what she did, what lessons, life lessons did it teach her, and how she's prepared for life. That's one story.
Mm-hmm.
Number two story, I think, is a Tanishq story, which happened during Women's Day this year, where the woman says that, okay, I've been on a career break because of motherhood, but I was the chief home officer. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
a resume
Mm-hmm.
says that, and now you can do that, right? If you've been on a break because of parenting or something else, you can choose to say that I took a break because I was the chief home officer in my home. These are my new recruits, and she says it beautifully. She says it like a story. So taking inspiration from these two stories, what you need to do is turn the focus on what did you learn, who
Yeah.
needed you
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
most, being with your family, being with somebody who needed you the most, who could you help, what did you discover about yourself, did you learn a new skill, did you invest in yourself, right? Put all of that into a story of your 2 years. आपने 2 साल क्या किया, ये बहुत बढ़िया कहानी है. You should be able to
And
tell it if you
actually,
do.
the interviewer is looking for same, right? That
Yes,
okay, you couldn't get a job in 2 years, that's fine. But what did you do? How did you deal with that? Did you
exactly.
learn? Did you become a better person? Or some of us faced tremendous troubles in those 2 years. How did you come
Yes,
out of that?
yes.
So you rightly said, basically, again, your perspective towards a rejection or a difficult moment, or maybe just
Conflict,
idleness. I
life
mean, you
conflict.
were not earning, maybe your financial situation went down. How did you deal with that, right? So
Yeah,
a failure
loss
as
of
well.
job, loss of job, right? Very very big thing. I mean, you've lost a job, you didn't have a place to stay, you had to move to another city, go back maybe to your parents, to your family, to support you. I mean, how did you feel? How did that make you feel? Why? What attempts did you make? And again, don't make it a the tip is never to make it a sob story about
Exactly,
yourself.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that refrain from doing that, because that's very putting off to people. Don't be the victim in your own
Hmm.
story. Okay, tell your victimhood story with a sense of pride that I
So
survived.
don't be a hero winning everything, but don't be a victim always crying. I mean,
Yeah,
somewhere in the
never,
middle, right? Who is
never be
going
the
up
victim.
and down.
Absolutely.
Sometimes he's
Don't be
winning,
the
sometimes
victim
he's
in your
losing.
story. Yeah, never be the victim in your story. Always tell your story from the victim who says, I survived, I didn't give up. And that's very
Mm, mm.
important. That's the attitude that you give, and that's what they want to take away from your story. The way you tell it is important, because that's when they know, oh, ye to apna bichara, I mean, he's just crying for his life, saying that please give me this job, otherwise I'm going to
Yeah,
not be able to get,
exactly.
get my next meal. So that should not, no pity. You should not ask for a job, or go for an interview where you want your interviewer to pity you.
Perfect, perfect. No, this I think, Rituparna, we are stopping on the most important question, I guess. I'm sure many of us have faced this, right? 2 years were very difficult. Many of us had to face things, right? And I think this will come out in most job interviews for next 1 year, I'm
Absolutely.
sure.
It will. You
Right?
should have
What
a
did you
good
do in those two
gap
years?
story. You should have a good gap story, because that's
Yeah,
very, very important. Very, very
yeah,
important.
yeah. So great, great. I mean, so many questions. Thank you, audience. Really, really appreciate this
Lovely.
because you kept us like, if you see Rituparna, so many comments came, right? So it
I'm
felt
really
like
hoping
talking
that your
to people
community,
in real.
I hope that your community, while seeing this, will have more story, won't have more questions. So I'll be very happy to sort of come in and comment later, because interview is such a hot topic. I was really hoping that a lot of tricky questions will come, and I'm so happy that the kind of questions which came, great.
No, they were not tricky for you, Rituparna, but they were tricky when you were prepared. See, it was your interview. But did you see everyone that because of stories, Rituparna answered all my questions? I was taking her interview. So that's the power of stories for interviews. Okay. So
Yes.
on
Mahesh,
this
you have
note,
to deal it the same way. Mahesh, you have to deal it the
yeah,
same way. If for an you took an employment gap for
yeah.
entrepreneurial aspiration, it did not work out. Uh,
I think you already
Absolutely,
have a story, right,
story.
Mahesh? I mean, you have a greatest story, I would say, right? The
Failure
most
stories
difficult
are very
failure.
good. Trust me, failure stories are very good. The fact that you're accepting that you failed is a wonderful, wonderful impression on your interviewer that this person knows how to handle defeat. This person knows how what it means to lose, and therefore there's the hunger in him to rebound and
Yeah, yeah,
rejoin the
yeah.
workplace. So you have to look at it from the listener's point of view. What does that story say about you? So it's not something that you need to be hesitant about. Don't be hesitant about a failure story.
And not even I'm ashamed of this.
Yeah,
Actually, I
no,
mean, because
don't be
people
ashamed. Don't be
hide.
hesitant.
No, and what happens? People hide, right? In general, we hide our failures, we hide our weaknesses. So
I
actually, when
always
we
tell
put
people
this,
celebrate your failures more than your wins, because your failures teach you invaluable lessons about yourself. They
yeah.
shape you who you are.
And in interviews, that person actually wants to know more about you. That's why they are asking all these
What's
questions.
inside? They want to know
So why
who's
not
inside
give that
this.
answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you,
Brilliant,
Samir. Thank
brilliant.
you so much.
So great, great. So I need one more question has come, but I think we have covered this. After
Yes,
a
we've
gap,
covered
how
this
to
already.
negotiate
Yes.
salary, right? We
Yes.
have
We've already
covered this,
spoken
the
about
gap, sorry,
negotiating salary. So yeah.
and the gap as well. So
Yeah.
you have to combine both. Great, great. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Rituparna. It's been more than 1 hour. My longest LinkedIn live, okay, ever.
Woohoo!
Seriously.
Bring a storyteller
Another
in and
power of
let's
stories. Rituparna, most of them are still here for 1 hour, okay? This is the power of stories. Guys, those of you
so
who are still with me from the start, you are here because of stories.
yes,
Amazing.
see, we all crave stories. Our brains are wired for stories. Our brain is divided into two parts, the right and the left. And we go with the left part of the brain. We go with one part of the brain which we feed the logical part of it, looking for fact, data, information. This is why these happen. But we find meaning when we put the other half of our brain together, where we find reason behind all of our logic, which are the stories. We ignore the stories. We think they are powerless, but they're actually the most important things in your life.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rituparna. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
It was
having
a
me.
great session.
Always happy to talk about stories and storytelling. So go head over to my profile if you want to know more about storytelling. I talk about storytelling from all aspects of life, and I'm here on LinkedIn to enable people to become better storytellers. So most tips, tricks, uh, with just not interviews, but even at the workplace. Next week we're going to be talking about, I think, the future of work, and the future of
Yeah,
work will be defined by the stories you tell. So go ahead and
perfect.
follow. And thank you so much, Harshad. I had a lovely time.
No, it
One
was
hour is
all
not
because
enough.
of the. No, exactly. 1 hour is not enough. Generally plan for half an hour only, but today so many questions came. Amazing, amazing, Rohan. Thank you
Lovely.
so
I'm so
much.
happy. Yes, I'm super happy for you.
Super
Congratulations.
happy. And those of you who joined late, please go back, rewind, and really watch the entire session. Okay, I really, really recommend because many of you join late. It so happens. We are busy, so
And to
rewind
those of you
because
who are here, I would really like you to help me put this resource together of the trickiest questions in an interview. Let's see if we can have a storied answer to it. So it'll be a good challenge for me as well. And what kind of
yeah,
a story do you need to tell to get out of this situation or to address this question? So
yeah,
please, if
yeah.
you can think of it later on, please put it in the comments and Harshad will find a way
Exactly,
to.
exactly. This exactly as I was about to say. If you still have like you have prepared now your story, put it into comments.
Yes,
Uh, you know,
absolutely. If you want prepared, go ahead and put that story out and let's see how we can help you tell that better.
yes.
Double
Good
confident now.
night.
Super nice.
Good
Good
night,
night.
Rituparna.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.